Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your technical critic, and it's time for my review of Legend of Korra Season 4, Episode 3, The Coronation. When I say Coronation, I am not referring to all the people who watch Legend of Korra. But cha! As always, as I always say, make sure to like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to this video, share the video. But of those four, the most important is leave that comment, because this is not just your regular old review. No. This is a discussion. Your opinion on the show matters, and if you leave a comment talking about something that you like, I will read it. It will make it into the discussion section, and we'll talk about it. I promise. I've always done this. Alright, so also this review will contain spoilers, so if you have not watched the episode yet, what are you doing here? Why are you watching reviews? Go watch the episode, come back, and then watch the review. So let's begin. Now, this episode was extremely interesting politically. It didn't have too much to do action-wise or character development-wise, but politically, and this season of Korra is shaping up to be extremely political, far more than any of the other three seasons. But this one is extreme. This episode is very interesting politically, and we are starting to see the transformation of Captain Kuvira into going from just what appears to be the villainous character to full-on dictator. I mean, even with episode 1, the things that she was doing, she's a top hat wearing villain. I mean, she might as well have a twirly mustache, a long black cape, a cane with a sword in it, and a monocle, because it just says, look at me, I'm the villain, this is what I do. It is so obvious that, it's almost painful, but this episode did confirm a lot of the suspicions I had, a lot of the theories I had in terms of why Kuvira is doing the things that she's doing. It does seem to be setting up that you're going to have a head-on collision between two different types of ideologies in terms of those who do not like monarchy. You're going to have the one that's coming from Su Yin. She is representing the people who they may not like the monarchy that they're dealing with, but they would prefer that to just a nameless dictator or the chaos of democracy coming in. And then you've got Su Yin, the kind of person who does not like monarchy, and who honestly thinks that if she was in charge, she could do a better job, and has the power to do so. And the two of them are going to come head to head. Su Yin, as a character, when you look at her, she is a queen. She is a queen. There is no other way to describe it. I mean, a governor, at the very least, is elected by the people. She rules Zaofu. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. She is extremely wealthy. I mean, she's the top of the heap. Everyone seems to go to her for her advice. The city guard is beholden on her beck and call. She's a queen. She is a queen. She is exactly what the queen was in Ba Sing Se, with the exception that she probably didn't collect tax. I mean, I don't even know if she collected taxes and used them for her own purpose. I mean, maybe she felt that the money that they were sending to Ba Sing Se was a bad thing, and that's why she was opposed to the monarchy. I don't know. But I will say this. She is a queen, and Captain Kuvira is a dictator. The two of them are going to go head to head, and we're going to see monarchy battle dictatorship. Although I will say this, before we get into any of that really heavy stuff, in order to call something a monarchy versus a dictatorship, a lot of people seem to use the word interchangeably. However, this is not the case. A monarch is a king or a queen by and for the will of the people. You can be a king or a ruler without the will of the people. It is entirely possible. It's been done many and countless times before in history. I mean, just look at England. They've had so many kings and queens that they did not like. But it usually ends badly for them, because when the people don't like you, they do not support you. And the people don't support you, all of your political enemies have then the power to remove you with their good graces, as we saw in this particular episode. When people do not like the king is no longer a king simply when someone else comes and says, you know what, we don't want you to be the king anymore. You are not the king. A dictator, on the other hand, may not be popular amongst their people, but the people who do support them are absolutely fanatical, as you have clearly seen. And the people who are caught in the middle, they usually do not know what to think, so they are very easy to blow this way or that way in terms of things like rhetoric. And this episode was extremely symbolic of that. Kuvira was able to do what she did, and think about it. Think about this. Who was sitting there on that coronation stage when Kuvira decided to take power? You've got Tenzin, who is the leader of the Airbenders, basically the sage of the Airbenders, the most experienced of them all. He is essentially the leader of the Air Nation, in all but title. You've got Deska and Eska, co-rulers of the Water Tribe. You've got Tanrak, leader of the Southern Water Tribe. You've got Zuko and his daughter, whose name I do not know, the two rulers of the Fire Nation. And then you've got President Raiko. You've got five of the most powerful five of the most powerful bending rulers on the planet gathered in one place, but they did not make a single move. And you want to know why? Because Kuvira, one, she had clearly planted people in the crowd. I mean, when everyone goes and stands up and goes, Kuvira, the great uniter, at a coronation for a king, those are people who have clearly been placed there for that particular purpose. And I think it shows a great deal of tact on the part of the kings and the queens and the princes and the princesses and the rulers who are there to not stand up and demand that something be done, because, well, that's a very easy way to get taken out. It simply is. And I think they showed a great amount of political tact. And that also sets the stage for what we're going to see in terms of politics of this season. It's not going to be, okay, two people disagree with each other over a particular way of leading, so they're going to duke it out. I mean, this is not going to be like season 3 where you've got anarchists versus non-anarchists. We disagree, so we're going to fight. No. This is going to be a lot more of for lack of a better word, backroom politics. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see people come in. You're going to see them threaten each other, and then you're going to see the consequences happen off screen, or off to the side. Like, you're going to see two armies line up and fight each other, but the leaders are going to be talking to one another, and they're going to be like, well, you know what, this is this is that, You're going to see a lot of bargaining. You're going to see a lot of threats and political posturing. That's what we're going to see in terms of Kuvira and her storyline. Will we see action? Certainly. We will see battle lines drawn up. We will see nations getting ready for war on epic set pieces. But that's not to come for quite a while. Probably not until near the season finale, when Korra is ready to come back, step in, and be the avatar she needs to be. The second thing that this episode sets up is the relationship between Prince Wu and Mako. And when I say relationship, I don't mean like, this is not going to be a bromance. This is not going to be two dudes getting to know each other, becoming really good friends, and, you know, bonding the way that Korra and Asami have. No. This is going to be Mako essentially mentoring the young king. He's going to be saying, look, if you're going to be a king, the title king is servant of the people. If you're going to be a king, you're going to need to know how to treat people. And he's going to mentor him, he's going to teach him the ways of the normal person. And in the end, if Prince Wu is then offered the throne, or King Wu, the deposed King Wu, the emeritus King Wu, if he is then offered the throne, the question will then be, will he take the throne as a leader and be a good leader, or will he then, as the show seems to have been advocating for quite some time now, is he then going to say, no, you know what, all of this anarchy and trouble that's been caused has been because of a king. If I'm going to lead, I'm going to lead by my people, and we're going to have a democracy, and they're going to establish the Earth Kingdom as a republic. And he's going to run to be president of the Republic of the Earth Kingdom. What would you even call that? The United States of the Earth Kingdom? I don't know. Is this the creation of the U.S.? The USE, the United States of the Earth, the United States of the Earth, USE? I don't know. So there's that, and then you've got Korra's plot. Korra is going through, and I didn't think of this until recently, but Korra, what it seems to be showing in terms of her plot line is that she is going through the 12 stages of post-traumatic stress disorder. So we've started with, okay, here's where Korra is. She's horribly, horribly injured. She then needs to learn how to pick herself. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is she then needs to learn to pick herself up and be able to function again, right? So that's the entire deal with her and Katara, and it usually takes patience and kindness of someone to get you back up on your feet and then start to be again. The third one, and this is a very strange way to take it, and I don't agree with it at all, but it seems to be a mindset that people who have suffered a very traumatic experience the way that Korra has, if they don't bounce back to normal, it seems to be the accepted thing to blame that particular person. It's almost as if they're saying, well, you know what? Yes, a terrible thing happened to you, but time has passed. You should be able to put that just behind you and go back to being the person you were before that. And not only is that an extremely difficult thing to do, but it's an extremely strange thing to say to anyone. Let's go through this. Suppose a soldier was injured in battle. He fought a really hard, dirty war. He was injured in battle. He came home, and then he wasn't able to function the way he was before. Would you blame that soldier? I mean, would you say, hey, look, you know what? I know that whatever happened to you was horrible, but you know what? You're still a soldier. You should go back out there and fight. I mean, if someone was a victim of a horribly violent incident and that happened to them, would you then say, yeah, well, you know, a horribly violent thing happened to you. You should still be the same person you were before. No, that's insanity. It's like saying someone has their leg blown off. Then it's like, oh, well, you know what? They have prosthetic legs. You can still go back to being the exact same person. No, you're not. You've lost something. You've lost a part of you. And the idea of Toph saying, look, the reason that you're not able to get the metal out of you is because you probably don't want to go back to being the Avatar. No, it has nothing to do with that. 2, hey, you know what? These are all your problems. We can't help you deal with them. If you're going to do this, you got to get over it yourself. This is the wrong way to go with it. And unfortunately, this seems to be the third stage of PTSD, where people on the outside seem to start to blame people on the inside, or the person who it seems to have happened to. And at this point, I think Korra needs to remove herself from Toph's presence, because Toph is essentially the same as she's always been. It was very surprising, however, to hear some of the things she said. For example, when she said, look, I was the chief of police of Republic City for many, many years, and even though the bandits changed, the streets remain the same. Yes, it's true. The streets remain the same. Yes, it's true. Even with the Avatar saving everything, the world remains the same. But you want to know something? There's a cost to doing nothing. And the cost of doing nothing is, those streets may remain the same, but when you do nothing, those streets completely change. They go from being streets to just plain chaos. Could you imagine if... Let me ask you this. if because uh, people get murdered, and then the police go, they solve the case, they capture the murderer, and they put them behind bars, and then the next month, a bunch of other people get murdered. The police go, they solve that case, they put them behind bars. If the mayor of the city or whoever was running things suddenly said, well, you know what? We have police officers, but people are still being murdered. Let's just get rid of the police officers. What? Just think. Just do some lateral thinking there. What the heck would happen? Everything would crumble into just crime, punishment, and anarchy. It would be the rule. It would be jungle law. It would be the rule of the iron fist again. Whoever is strongest wins. And the same thing is with Korra. I mean, I was shocked with what Toph said about the Avatar. That the world doesn't need an Avatar. She was there for the Sozin incident, was she not? The entire 100-Year War? I mean, if Avatar Aang had not defeated Fire Lord Ozai, would anything that they accomplished afterwards have even been possible? Like, I'm not comprehending her logic. I mean, sure, she's putting up this rough and tumble defense. She's basically being the tough cynic. But you know what? She's wrong. She simply is wrong. And I'm sorry to say it, Toph. You're wrong. As much as I love you, you're wrong. The world needs its heroes. The world needs its protectors. You want to know why? Because without them, everything is just chaos, anarchy, and sadness. And the sadness is probably the worst part, because that means that it's absolutely hopeless for anything to get done. And another point. Toph being so surly is not surprising to me, but it's very concerning. Because you know what? You live in a swamp. Do you not have anything that you could possibly use to knock Korra out and then remove the metal from her? I know what the writers are trying to do. They're basically trying to make it so, okay, yes, Toph would be able to remove the metal from her. But you know what? We're not going to go that route, because that's the easy route. We got to go and we got to show Korra become and build up to this point where she can then go and say, look, I am the Avatar because and this is why I'm doing this, and this is why I'm doing this, and then she overcomes that poison. Okay, I understand what you're doing. That's great. But the brick wall you put up is too damn high. You gotta show some sympathy here, okay? You gotta show some caring. If you're not going to show that in this episode, you might be able to show it in the next episode. I mean, I really don't know what to say. Like, are you trying to tell people who have PTSD that, look, you need to get over what has happened to you? Sure, but you know what? People need help. People need help, and that is not the way to... Toph, you needed help so many times. I mean, the meeting between yourself and Uncle Iroh, I remember this, and I will remember it till the day I die. He helped you, and you helped him. And it wasn't because either of you were weak. It was because the two of you needed something to make the other one stronger. And I would think that Toph, having lived the life she has, and being as privileged as she was to be a part of the life of the Avatar, the creator of metal bending, and just everything wonderful that she did, I would think that she would know that by now. Wouldn't you? I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking to me, at least. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it certainly is shocking to me. Well, I hope Korra gets her help. I hope Asami and Korra... I hope Asami is the one who helps her to get through this, because that's the next stage of PTSD. You need to rely on someone to help you stand on your own 2 feet and get over it. That's essentially the next stage, and I'll be looking out for it, as well as everything else that seems to have been set up. I mean, what the twist will be, I don't know, but so far, interesting, shocking, and quite frankly, I do not know what to say next. That is my review. This was a good if I was to rate it, I'd say it was 9 out of 12. Not perfect, but still pretty damn good. Yeah, so that's been my review. I will see you in the discussion. If you made it this far, you're awesome, as always. If you haven't seen the review, I suggest you go back and watch it and then come here. Let you know my opinions, my thoughts, and the facts that we learned in the last episode of Avatar. Now, still a pretty scanty discussion section. Thank goodness for Knife Ink reviews. She made quite the statement on. It was an 18-minute SoundCloud single person podcast, and I have to say it was very well done, very well reviewed. I've put the link down in the description so you guys can go and listen to it. Now, as always, I'm not going to just blatantly stick her review in here because, one, that would be plagiarism, despite the fact I have permission to, and two, you guys would not then go and watch it. I've got main points and we'll discuss it. But before we do that, let's do channel comments. So, the first one comes from Juan Rodriguez. Hello, Juan. Nice to have you as always. Oh, and this reminds me. Thank you. Welcome to Christopher Roundtree, our newest subscriber. Glad to have you here, and I hope you stick around. All right. Let us begin. Juan says, thank you for reading my comments and be honest about your feelings towards the film. For me, I stick to my guns in believing in this movie. Now, about the episode, it was very, very rare for a whole episode involving Korra. But I won't jump the gun just yet, because I'm worried about this episode, not just this episode, but the last ones. Reich writing goes downhill as the series ends for some reason. But maybe they will pull an awesome or a B plot hole. Well, look, when it comes to the movie, it's pretty universally hated. I mean, good job, Juan on being one of the very, very few people who actually defend the movie, but when you compare it to the season, it's not good at all. I mean, even the bad episodes, the worst episodes of Avatar, are better than a lot of stuff that's on TV here. I mean, and that's not to say that they're bad episodes of Avatar. They're just some that are not. They're A material. And let me put it that way. They've got some episodes that are not their A material, but still better than anything else they've got playing on TV. As to an episode involving all, yeah, you're right. It is pretty rare that we get only a Korra episode. I mean, even through seasons 1, 2, and 3, I don't think we saw any Korra-only episodes. This is probably one of the first we've seen. I mean, let me think. Yeah, I really can't seem to recall any episodes where we don't have Korra. But what it did do is allowed us to grow her character quite a bit. And I know, even when she was in the spirit world all by herself, she still had Uncle Iroh with her to guide her, so it wasn't like she was completely and totally alone. It was very nice to see Korra. It was very nice to see the build-up to where she is and how that relates to this particular episode. But, I do think they have a plan. I don't think that this is just being done willy-nilly. We're just going to roll with the punches and see what we can produce. No, there's definitely a plan here, and they know that this is going to be the last season of Avatar to ever be created. So, I have to hope, right? I have to hope that they're going to end this thing with the dignity and the grandeur that it deserves. Okay? Alright, moving on, we get to the real Bucky. He says, I guess I commented too late. Get all my comments in your next review, would you? Well, I'll get all your comments here for the next review. The ones you left on the last episode were shit. I'm sorry, there's no other thing. They were just horrible. I mean, come on. Read them and tell me. Would you honestly want me putting those things to air? I don't think so. It's not dignified of me to do it. It certainly doesn't present you in a good light. I won't do it. I simply will not. I mean, if you really, really do want me to, fine. I will. But you know what? It's beneath you. It really is. I've seen some of your comments. They're very, very intelligent, like the ones that are coming up. And come on, Bucky, I expect better than you than that. Sure, we're all trolls here on the internet, but between friends, really? Okay. The next one, and this is the one I'm going to read, is, do you think, it's very interesting, do you think Princess Azula was written out of the Avatar universe history books? Think about it. When Zuko became Fire Lord, he had the power to choose whether Azula should be remembered or not. Zuko had the power to choose not to have her mentioned in the history books the kids of the Fire Nation schools learn about. Zuko was likely ashamed to have a mentally unstable sister. Royalty, in fact, who ended up getting locked in the Avatar version of Arkham Asylum. I think he could have gotten away with it too. Would you think so? Could he have done this? Well, as you stated, it is entirely possible that he could have done this. However, I don't think he would. Quite frankly, if his own father, Fire Lord Ozai, is not going to get written out of the history books, why would Azula? Look at everything that she accomplished, just as the Avatar's major nemesis. I mean, even Chin the Conqueror. Chin the Conqueror was murdered by Avatar Kyoshi, but he is still remembered and still a part of the history of the Avatar universe, and probably in their history book somewhere. So I think it's safe to say that yes, Azula will make it. Also, despite everything that you see in this series, I think Zuko does actually care for his sister. Despite all of the bickering and the fighting and the adversarial relationship, he loves his sister. It's hard to see, but it is there, and he does wrestle with that for quite some time. And even with the events of the last episode of Avatar Airbender, where the two of them basically duke it out, and she nukes him in the chest, even after that, when it goes to, I mean, look, he could have just had her locked up, sure, but I do think while he was having her treated, he was hopeful that something of her would come out. And as much as I do not like to talk about the comics, particularly The Search, I do know that she was there. I do know that Zuko and her kind of do have a little bit of a making up. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, she ends up running off into the wilderness, and that's the last we ever hear of her. I think that's the Michael and Brian way of simply saying, well, you know, we're done with this character. Doesn't matter how interesting she is. We wash our hands of her. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfair. Not only to her, but to the fans. I mean, come on. Azula's a fan favorite. They specifically mentioned they were bringing back her voice actress for Season 3 in order to bait us all to go. I mean, come on. Really? Don't do this to Azula. I can't help but think that despite her place, as horrible and dark as it was, that he would include her. I mean, his father's there. It's not like he could write his father out of the history books. Why would he write out his sister? It simply is the way it is. I mean, sure they had their problems, but I'd like to think that they got over them at some point. And, oh, I want to see Azula so bad. I want to see her so bad. As much as I don't think I could handle what old Azula looks like, I will take the palpitations. If it means that I can see Azula one last time, I will take what I can get. All right, so let's move on to Knife Ink. All right, now time for the Knife Ink portion of the review. This is basically my discussion response to her review. She makes so many good points, and I'm so lucky to have her review to talk about. I encourage you so much. Go watch it. Absolutely. I can't link it here on the screen because YouTube does not like outside links. However, it's down in the description. So please go click there, watch it, come back, and then listen to the points I have to say. Or watch it while you listen to the points I have to say. It really doesn't matter. But let's begin. Point the first. You talked quite a bit about Toph in the beginning, and you were very glad that Toph did not, or was not used by the writers as essentially a Deus Ex Machina to say, okay, you know what, Korra's been having trouble, here's the reason Korra's been having trouble, episode 3, let's fix it all. And while Toph may not have waved her magic wand to fix Korra, showing Toph the way they did, and both in the trailer and now in this particular episode, I have to wonder if the cameo of Toph is nothing more than fan service. And this is true with so many of the other cameos that we've had in terms of Avatar Airbender characters. I mean, look at Zuko. What was the entire point of bringing back Zuko? I really don't know. I mean, sure, Katara and Zuko do talk exactly once, but I'm not certain that whatever advice he gave ever even made it into the episode as a factor. I mean, he said that Aang would be overjoyed that the Air Nation was reborn and that it was the one thing that he'd work for, but he didn't think he would sacrifice the world for the sake of it. That he was everyone's avatar. Sure, but at the end of the day, what did they do? They ended up going to try to save the air nomads. That was... It almost feels like filler. It really does. Filler and fan service. I mean, even in the first season, Katara popping up was, and the second season as well, Katara being there as a healer and as one of the people who trained Korra, it does feel like it was, okay, here's Katara as shock value. She's an old woman. Toph being here feels almost the exact same way. I mean, look, it's only in the second episode, the one that came before this one, that we really see Katara's true nature come out, and she plays a major role in this series. First major role that an elder character has played so far. Hopefully there's more, but you never know. I mean, maybe Toph will become her mentor. Maybe Toph will decide to go with Korra. You never know. But they did do a good job with it. I will admit that. And I was very happy to see her. It's like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a while. It's like, Toph, glad to see you. You haven't changed that much. But watching this the second time, especially for the purposes of review, it was frustrating listening to Toph, not just knowing her the way that we, the audience, do, but listening to what she had to say. In the beginning, where she was being gruff and being like, oh, if you want to hug something, hug a tree. Yeah, that's the Toph we know and love. Seeing Toph bend her way around Korra and boom, 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 boom. That's the Toph we know and love. But listening to what she had to say, basically that, look, I'm more connected than you even think I am. I can see everything, etc. It sounded almost like I was listening to an internet troll. Like she was deliberately speaking in that very gruff, condescending way in order to try and get a rise or some kind of reaction or satisfying reaction, as they say, out of Korra. I mean, really, listen to what she had to say. She basically said, look, the world doesn't need you. 2, yeah, sure, you may have a lot of metallic poison in you, but the only reason it's in there is because you don't want to be the Avatar anymore. It's so baiting. And it just makes it really, really hard to take in. Just coming from a character like Toph. I mean, she is supposed to... What were we told when we found out not only was Toph alive, but that she was still somewhere wandering the earth? What did Ai Wei tell us? He said Toph left Zaofu to go around and seek enlightenment. Well, she made it to the swamp, and I'm not exactly sure what enlightenment she found. It seems that she's just grown surly and bitter and just so cynical. It's just frustrating to me that she... Okay, look, I see what they're doing. They're saying, okay, yes, this is the route that we as the writers could have taken. Like, yes, Toph is the most powerful bender metallic bender still, even in her old age. She can sense the little pieces of metal that are still floating inside of Korra, and has the ability to remove them. Now, when Korra starts to fuss because her PTSD is getting to her, why doesn't Toph just constrain her and forcibly evict the metal from her? Sure, and then bing bang boom, we're done. I mean, would it be her style? Probably. Just remembering the character as I do, Toph's very Toph's very quick to find solutions to things and then act on them. So that would be a very quick solution to go through. Plus, I really don't buy that she would have a problem harming Korra if it meant helping her in some way. I can't see that taking the metal out, no matter how much Korra kicks and screams, would be a bad thing. I really don't. And I think the reason that they're doing this is basically saying, okay, look, there is this super, super easy way out that we could have taken. But you know what? We're better than that. We're going to take the hard fight, and will it result in a hard loss? Maybe, but you know what? This is the journey, and this is what we're on. So, I applaud you guys for that, but it could have been done better. I don't think we needed to ruin a great character. Well, not ruin, but warp a great character in order to achieve that. Okay, point the second. As your reaction to the show, where you felt that at some points it did feel boring, I completely understand it. Political drama, when done properly, is really, really good. The amount of power that goes into a climax is just atom bombs just going off. There's just one problem with it, and it's the dead air that's caused by waiting for those climaxes to come to fruition, and it can make something seem rather bland. However, with the setup they seem to be playing, with the lack of subtlety, like you mentioned how transparent Kuvira is, how annoying Prince Wu is, just the lack of subtlety on Kuvira's part, or the simple annoyingness of Prince Wu, that's going to have definite consequences in terms of future episodes. I mean, let's go through it. In terms of Kuvira, it really means a head-on collision with Su Yin, and later on with Prince Wu, if and when she's done with Su Yin. And again, possibly Team Avatar, because we know Asami's present, and we know that Mako and Bolin are going to be facing on opposing sides. Korra then will possibly show up near the end in order to fulfill her subplot of growth and achievement. However, at this point, she seems to be a side character in her own story, and that really is what's contributing to the lack of enthusiasm throughout what we've seen so far. It really is being like, okay, political setup, political setup, political setup. Everything that you've seen here in episode 3 is basically going to act as the anchor for everything else that we see and everything else that branches off for the next 10 episodes. And so I say and too much. In terms of why Prince Wu would be the candidate to put on the throne, let's just break it down into its two subparts. Firstly, we have Prince Wu and Mako. Now, with Prince Wu, it seems almost too obvious that Mako will essentially try and turn him, if not into a proper ruler, then someone who would be willing to cede authority to someone who is more capable. That seems to be the arc that's going on between the two of them. And in terms of the why, I think, and I truly do believe this, that this is possibly a power play. Let's look at who's putting him in power. It's President Raiko. This is a power play on the part of President Raiko. Why would that be? Well, I think Kuvira gave us the reason for it. Let's face it, Republic City is a tiny, tiny place. Yes, they are defended by all 4 kingdoms. Yes, they do have their own military force, but they are a spit of land next to a sleeping giant. Yes, the Earth Kingdom is powerful when it's united behind one particular person. I think Kuvira has just proven that. And they have a lot of resources that the small Republic is extremely hungry for. She said, look, Republic City needs our metal. They don't want our metal. They need our metal. So, if you're the president of this tiny, tiny republic and you happen to have someone who is extremely easy to manipulate on your hands, who is also going to be the ruler of that particular kingdom. Do you see where I'm going with this? The best way to control the Earth Kingdom from Republic City would be to have someone like Prince Wu, who is completely and utterly enamored with Republic City, sitting on the throne, ruling over everything. I mean, they even said, we are sending political advisors to run the entire show. Like, that could not be more blatant. It was very subtle. It was one offhanded line, but the implications of it, the ripples that cause, are massive. It is a tidal wave effect. That really is the reason for Prince Wu in a nutshell. All right. You also mentioned, and for some reason I found this ridiculously funny, but do not ask me why. In terms of Prince Wu possibly being homosexual, if he really was gay, would he have hit on Asami in the beginning of the first episode? Now, granted, and this is just personal, yes, because come on, it's Asami Sato. Men, women, children, old folks, take your shot, no matter how slim, and hope for the best. I mean, even if straight or gay, come on, it's Asami. I mean, personally, he could be a gay character. I don't know. But personally, I don't see him as a gay character. Personally, I like most of the things he does. I love to shop. I like going to nice stores and seeing what they have. And I think this is true of most guys. Just like how girls go out and try on shoes, we guys, we go out. We go to the store and we see what they have. I mean, dress shirts, suits, shoes, ties, pants, hats. How do you think we end up with junk like fedoras? Come on. Same way that girls do. We buy that stuff thinking it was going to impress either a friend or a member of the opposite sex, whatever, and then we never ever use it. There's probably like a drawer in every dude's household that just has cologne in it. Cologne that he has never used, either because he got it as a gift or he bought it because he thought, oh, this scent will make me smell fresh, and then he used it twice and never touched it again. I mean, and think about it, like, we get stiff, we get injured, we play, and when we play sports, we do all kinds of stuff, so what do? We get massages. And personally, seaweed wraps are relaxing, and they do wonders for your skin. So I simply see Prince Wu as more of a spoiled rich kid. If you're a spoiled rich kid, this is the stuff you do. You go about spending money, having people treat and pamper you. It simply is the way you do things. I mean, it doesn't make him gay. At least just not how I see it. It just seems to be more in line with his class, with his upbringing, that he would care more about the clothes he wears and how he looks, because he's royalty. He is meant to be a set piece, always on display, always there for his people to see. He's supposed to be the picture of confidence and assuredness. And he's got the confidence, probably, well, and he does seem to be extremely self-assured, just not in the ways that we need him to be as a ruler. But Mako will set him straight, I'm pretty sure. And moving on from there, as you did seem to mention it, in terms of gay couples, yes, I would love to see Asami and Korra as a couple. I mean, look, the writers have been dangling that in front of us. I mean, the dangling, just the sheer taunting of Korrasami that they've been doing to us is approaching a criminal felony. And just because they have one season left to finish it doesn't mean they can just throw it to the wind. I mean, I do hope it gets done. I really do. But you have to remember, this is the exact same team that made a love triangle the center of Season 1 and Season 2 of Avatar. And while it's not likely they'll do the right thing and put Korra and Asami together, there's always the false hope that you carry in your heart right up to the last second of the season finale. And of course, there's fan fiction and fan art. I mean, have you seen the Korrasami pictures out there? They rival the artwork of the show, and I guarantee you, the fan fiction out there could possibly be seamlessly interspliced with any part of these seasons. I swear on it. Come on, guys, Korrasami. Tell me you put Korrasami in the bag. If not, come on my show and tell me why you didn't do it. We need answers. But in terms of, and you also did mention you were hoping that Korra would be the TV show to introduce the concept of just gay characters as the regular thing. In terms of a children's cartoon, that this would be the groundbreaking thing. But allow me to ask something. If you're looking for a show to introduce the concept of gay characters as normal characters to children, why would you want it to be a Nickelodeon show? Answer me honestly. Would you actually want Nickelodeon to do it? So far as I've ever seen, the only thing that they use gay characters for is as villains, or just comic reliefs. Quite frankly, that's all they've ever used them for. Like Carly, Sam and Cat, Victorious. I can just think of so many shows where the gay character is just a written off funny one on a Nickelodeon channel. Viacom has to be one of the most archaic, backward companies I've ever seen. I mean, do they have the ability to make beautiful things? Absolutely. They produce beautiful things so many times. But that's like just a teeny tiny amount of the stuff they do. The majority of the times they take the quickest route to money they can, and to hell with artistic merit. Look at this Korra season. This entire Korra series was started because someone at Viacom said, "Hey, you know what? We need money. Hey, you know what? Really made us money? That Avatar thing. Hey, do you think you could write us an Avatar thing so that we can make even more money?" And I'm not saying, not at all, that Disney or any of the other large entertainment providers are any better. I mean, they're probably exactly the same or worse. But I think that we can all agree that any child watching this show, although I'm not too sure how many kids are watching this show, if they took a look at the toxic relationship between Mako, Korra, and Asami, and then they looked at the natural, organic relationship that was Korrasami, I think they would pick Korrasami any day over that damn love triangle. You also mentioned how you did not like how paper thin and blunt Kuvira was. Well, you're right. Kuvira is blunt, she's paper thin, she is absolutely out there in terms of crazy. But in terms of her bluntness, let's take a look at another extremely famous probably the worst person in history, good old Adolf Hitler. And if you ever go, and I encourage you to do this just in a historical context, just so that you know the pervasiveness of crazy that was pouring out of his brain. Go and listen to the English translations of any of his speeches, or if you're German, go listen to his speeches, whatever. They are not subtle, they're not conniving, they're not anything. They are outright, they just spew insanity. And as an outsider listening to that, you're like, wow, how the hell did anyone follow this guy? But if you you have to look at this in the narrowest, and I mean the narrowest sense of historical context, the good works he did. And when I say that, I do mean it in this narrowest of historical contexts. The building of the Autobahn, the establishment of Volkswagen, the unemployment welfare, the old age pensions, the jobs for during the Depression, veterans compensation, all that bad stuff that Germany sorely lacked and was needing. If you take just that stew pot of bad and you see what Hitler brought to the table and via the Nazi Party, you can see why Germany at the time was extremely ripe for the picking. If it had been any other situation, they would have been quickly suppressed. And I think the same is true in terms of the Earth Kingdom. They are in complete and utter turmoil with the death of the Earth Queen. Sure, she was a bad ruler. Let's not mince words here. But she was a stabilizing presence. So if you then go and take that and compare it, let's look at Kuvira. So what if you imprison a few dissenters? She's helping the rest of us, so she can't be all bad, right? She's only doing what she needs to do so she can help the rest of us. That's the mindset that you're dealing with in terms of why all these people are bowing to Kuvira. I mean, this is how dictatorships get started. What you're seeing is how the dictatorship gets started. When the opinion of the masses is swayed by displays of strength in a time of crisis, and when I say strength, I don't just mean military strength. I mean the ability to help the people most in need, en masse, the largest group of people in need en masse. I mean, let's just look back to episode 1 of this season. The government of the province of Yin recognizes Kuvira for what she is. However, he, the governor, can't do anything. Why? The people completely love her. She brings them protection. She brought food. You see the kids, they're playing with the mech tank. Everything seems to be fine whenever Kuvira is around. She's not outright oppressive. She's not saying, okay, people will go to bed at this time. You will do this, 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 and this, and you will supply oh so many people for my army. No, she's not saying that. She's just saying, okay, you guys are now underneath my protection. My people will be stationed around here. Is it actually that? No. But that's the price that they pay for having her in protection. I mean, what's a few liberties if it means that the bandits don't come in and kidnap our children and steal our winter provisions? That's the mindset of the people she's dealing with. I mean, this is why the upstaging of the king is done. I mean, this is what it's trying to illustrate. It doesn't matter what Kuvira does. It doesn't matter what she says. It doesn't matter how she says it. In the eyes of her supporters, she can do no wrong as long as she can explain it in a way that appeals to her audience. I mean, Hitler outright said, we're going to take Austria, we're going to take Hungary, we're going to take Czechoslovakia, we're going to take Poland. And guess what? With the exception of Poland, no one batted an eyelash. I mean, no one thought it was wrong because it was already too late. And looking at Bolin, this is point 7. In terms of Bolin, especially with this episode, in terms of your comments, I think that, yes, he does seem to be a little bit bland and silly, but I think he's being played as a representation of the undecided middle group. Not extremely opposed, not outright against, not outright for. He wants to help people, right? He's in the middle, you're right. He's sweet, he's kind, he's naive, but he also has the power to affect change. And he wants to affect change for the better, but he doesn't know how to do it. So, in this way, it's illustrating how a dictator can then use that. Kuvira is using him in the way that so many get used, by being told that the good they're doing needs to be done the way they're doing it in order to bring stability and try to help as many people as possible. I mean, think about how he starts repeating the rhetoric to his own brother. I mean, I honestly do think that this episode did really, really well in showing how much he was manipulated by her words and gestures, and we'll see more of it until Bolin actually has to fight his brother. I mean, look at when the two of them met in this episode in the hotel room. What's the first thing they did? They start playfully jabbing with one another, you know, the way that friends do. But it's heavy foreshadowing in this episode. For what is to come. These guys are going to go from, hey, you know, it's good to see you, hey, to, you know what, they will be throwing punches at one another. It is going to come down to that. I mean, look at when he repeats what Kavira said to Mako. Mako's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And he's like, "Look, I've got to go." And he's like, "Look, yeah, what happened was bad, but you know what? I've been there. We've been doing good. Or at least he thinks he's doing good. Why can't you help me to understand why this is good? Why can't you understand with me why this is good?" It's that unwillingness to sway or that unwillingness to try and bend one way or the other that makes him so pushable this way and that. It's sad. I do think it's sad to see Bolin like this. Will he recover? I hope so. I mean, 3 for 3. The season finale has been Deus Ex Machina. Everyone gets back to where they're supposed to be, with the exception of poor Korra. So, maybe we'll see Bolin have the wool pulled away from his eyes, and he'll see that his brother's trying to do the best thing. Now, as you did mention, you did kind of want to see Korra and Mako get back together, or that you wouldn't be disagreeable with seeing Korra and Mako get back together. I cannot agree with you on the dynamic in the previous seasons, but I mean, I'm sorry. I've been hurt too many times. I can't see it, especially when we have something that's so much better that we could possibly go towards. But I would like to point out, you said, I hate to say this, you said that he had the personality of a styrofoam, the charisma of a styrofoam cup. And I would point out that let's look at his situation. Being the older brother who essentially has to take care of Bolin, it's only natural that having a fun-loving side would be pretty low on his list of priorities. It's okay, here's my brother, here's what we have to do to survive on the streets, this, and this. It's naturally going to make him seem less charismatic. However, with King Wu, he really doesn't like the character. He honestly does not care about King Wu the way that he cared about his brother. So it's not all business. It's not, okay, what do we have to do to survive? He's also in a position where, look, we're not constantly fighting for survival. So now it's all about dealing with him on a personal level, as a way that he never did with Bolin. So I think what we're going to see is, yeah, it's going to come down to how his personality interacts with King Wu's personality, and that's finally going to get drawn out, and it's going to blossom into a beautiful flower. Now, bringing him and Korra back together, no. No. It's entirely possible, yes, that this is what the writers are thinking of doing, but in terms of Korra, it would throw the entire last season's development of friendship between Asami and Korra right out the window. And while that's essentially what the writers have indicated that they're trying to do with this season, I'm hopeful that Korra, as an independent woman, will shine through that instead. If I can't have Korrasami, I will not have Makora. I would rather see Korra alone in the swamp with her fond memories than go back with Mako. Or, God forbid, I heard this as a rumor, Prince Wu. Oh, Christ. No. No more relationship stuff. I cannot handle it. I'm burned out. Now, you also mentioned that the critiques that a lot of people, including yourself, are leveling at this show are that which you would do for a grown-up show. In terms of critiquing the Avatar series, you're absolutely right. This is, technically speaking, a kids show. It's produced by a company that makes kids shows. But let's look at who it's made for. The people who are watching Korra are not necessarily kids. In fact, I would say that the majority of them are not kids. It's made to appeal to the audience, especially with a lot of the callbacks to the Airbender characters, that if you're watching this, you're either familiar with Airbender or you grew up on the Airbender series. This is adult television. I mean, we see so many things that you would see in a Game of Thrones episode. We see people murdered on screen. We see we see Mako electrocute, oh gosh, I do not, Gailan, I do not remember her name, but the one that had water for arms. We see him electrocute her to death with his lightning bolt. We see a man commits suicide by bending a mountain of lava down on himself. We see so much. The queen is murdered on screen right in front of us. I mean, Korra goes through a metaphorical rape scene at one point. If you're wondering what that is, go back to the season finale of episode 2, the season finale of season 2, and the fight between her uncle and herself, and then the recovery process that she goes through. Sure, it's really, really rushed. But I've been discussing this with several people and they agree with me. That is possibly what the metaphor of all of that is. We even look at the politics we talk. We talk about equality for all people when one particular group holds power over a massive amount of minorities. We talk about what it means to be cultural and what it means to be part of a culture and what it means to be a part of a race, and how the two of them can interlink with one another and come together in the best of ways. These are the adult themes. These are adult themes. I mean, that is what they are. This is not little kid stuff. This is not sharing on the corner. And it's simply because of the layers. I mean, we even have what can be seen as an organic lesbian relationship growing between Korra and Asami. These are all adult themes, and it's just because of the number of layers that the writing goes through that we are able to critique it on such a high level. And quite frankly, if we weren't able to critique it on such a high level, I do think the show would be so much poorer for it, and we would not be enjoying it nearly as much as we do. And moving on, you said you feel like a crazy fan on Tumblr. Well, wake up and smell the Korrasami coffee. You're one of us. You clearly want these characters together. You're like every other Korra fan on the planet. Just give in. You're as crazy as the rest of us. Probably not as crazy as me, but you're fairly far down the rabbit hole. Don't go back. Go forward. Come with us. Embrace it. Now, in terms of Korra being pitiful, my question is, yes, you're right, we haven't seen Korra as an actual pitiful character, but my question is, do we actually need to see Korra as being the weaker person? I mean, yes, she's a hothead, she's strong, she relies on her strength, blah, 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 blah. Quite frankly, the triumph of the character, at least to me, is so much better than the crushing of one. I mean, at least in my mouth, it would leave a really bitter taste to see Korra fail, especially after everything she's been through. I mean, is it possible? Would the writers do that? Absolutely. Anything, they've proven. Look, we can write anything, we can destroy any expectation you have. We are loose cannons. It's perfectly possible it could happen. But I think we're in for a hard climb up, not a descent. I mean, and I've talked about this quite a bit in the rest of the review and the rest of the discussion, so there's not really a point in going over it again. But suffice it to say, Korra has hit rock bottom. I mean, literally, she hit rock bottom in episode 2. We see her hit the ground of an earthbending. She hit rock bottom. So, at this point, all that's left to do is she can either climb up out of the pit, or she could grab a shovel, she could dig a hole, she could climb into it, and then she could pull the earth over her head. Personally, I'd rather see her climb out of the pit. We are 900 steps to go, and if this show's about the journey, I just cannot wait to see what the next one will be. Will it end in disaster? It's a 50-50 shot at this point. But it's one I'm willing to take. To see where this character goes, absolutely, I'm willing to see. I will go to the end of the series, and I hope that you choose to do so too. I think you probably will. But suffice it, I want to see her succeed. I really do want to see her recover. I want to see her get better, but the effects will always still be there. It's something that will always be a part of her. But I want to see her overcome it. And on that note, we have finished the discussion section of this review. It was extremely interesting. Knife, you always do the best stuff. I'm amazed at the quality of the review you put out. I mean, it was extremely entertaining. I was laughing throughout the entire thing. Very analytical, highly captivating. I mean, just to match you, and I don't even think I match you, to be quite frank. I have to go for days and write this stuff down. The things that it takes me days to do, you managed to pull off in a couple of hours. I'm bow to you. You are magnificent. Keep it up. I hope to see more of your reviews, especially in terms of Korra, especially in terms of other things. What other TV shows do you watch? Let me know. Maybe we can do a co-review. You never know. But on that note, this has been my technical critique. As always, like, favorite, subscribe. If you made it this far, you are one of a very select group of people, and I applaud you. Like the video, share it wherever you can. I have a Patreon account. That's going to go down there. You want to see me continue to make high quality reviews? You don't have to contribute, but every little bit helps. And it allows me to do what I do. It allows me to do what I do better. We have a podcast. We have a podcast now. And yes, it is still rocky and getting off the ground. But we had our first podcast last Thursday. And despite all the problems it had, it was pretty darn good. I mean, check it out. I'll put a link to it in the description as well. And I hope that you tune in for the next one. When it will be, I'm not sure. Check my Twitter. I will make sure to tweet it out at least an hour before the podcast begins. Yeah, so that's a thing. Check my Twitter. I'll put that down in the links as well. And leave a comment. Join the discussion. You've seen the discussion we've had. It doesn't matter what the comment is. Could be great. Could be stupid. Doesn't matter. It will make it here. But yeah, this has been my critique. I hope to see you next week, and I will see you in the review.